Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share in the Medicine Annual Conference on the topic of mental health disorders in pregnancy with the focus on depression. Now, the few barriers to appropriate management of mental health disorders during pregnancy are due to the stigma related to mental health disorders in India, awareness among caregivers of the magnitude of the problem, awareness regarding the risk factors for mental health issues, and the benefit risk equations of psychotropic medications during pregnancy and lactation. Just looking at stigma in North India, this is a study which was done among severe mental disorders, and the patients among the 191 patients, 120 who had mood disorders and 71 with psychotic disorders, two-thirds actually talked about being teased by their own family members who should have been their caregivers. And almost 40% had similar treatment by their friends and colleagues. And almost one-third of the patients reported that seeking treatment is associated with facing these labels, and because of which they wanted to stop or had already stopped their treatment. What about South India? This is a study which looked at perception of stigma towards mental illness in South India. And this was a community-based cross-section study on 445 respondents. And they used a community attitude questionnaire, which they had both developed and validated. And when they looked at the prevalence of stigma towards mentally ill people, it was a whopping 74%. And this was irrespective of sex or marital status, sadly, education level, and socioeconomic status. You find that education didn't make a big difference, neither did the socioeconomic status make a big difference with the way people perceived mental health, mental illnesses in South India. So, what is the magnitude of the problem? 1 in 5 mothers they have depression during pregnancy or post childbirth, and this is data from USA, whereas from UK we find that 12% of women experienced depression and 13% experienced anxiety, and 1 in 5 in the first year after childbirth. What about prevalence in India? Is it very different? These are few studies. This is a study we had done where we looked at almost 300 patients. We took 148 from the obstetric medicine clinic that we run and 143 from the antenatal clinic in Christian Medical College Vellore, because we wanted to look at whether medical disorders or medical factors or complications were a risk factor for depression. What we found was that 1 in 4 had a high score on the Edinburgh postnatal depression score, and 1 in 10 seemed to have moderate to severe depression, as indicated by Beck's depression inventory. There was another study done previously on 156 patients among antenatal mothers from the antenatal clinic in Christian Medical College Vellore, and they were looking at perceived stress during pregnancy, and they found that 65% scored higher than the mean value on the perceived stress scale. Few other studies, one done in Chennai, in rural Chennai, among 100 antenatal mothers, found that two-thirds actually scored high on the PDS scale or had depression, and 1 in 4 seemed to have thoughts of self-harm. This is another study among 185 patients from Navi Mumbai, and again they found a similar incidence of almost 10% having moderate to severe depression. Studies from the West have used sample size from 68 to 1,558, and they found prevalences from 9 to 28% among the middle class samples, and 1 in 4 to every second patient having it in a low income population. So the magnitude of the problem is obviously tremendous. Now, what are the risk factors? So when we did our study, we considered maybe medical disorders or medical complications or previous obstetric complications as risk factors, and which is why we had these two groups of patients who attended the obstetric medicine clinic and the regular antenatal clinic without these risk factors. But to our surprise, we found that none of these medical complications or obstetric complications seem to come up were significantly associated with depression, but a lot of social factors actually came up as risk factors. So domestic violence, marital conflict, smoking in the partner or the family member, or family expectations regarding the gender of the baby. And this is a very cultural concept. And unplanned pregnancy, all of them seem to be risk factors for depression. When we did a logistic regression, we found that domestic violence is an independent risk factor with an odds ratio of almost 3.5. If the spouse stayed with the woman, it seemed to be protective. Uh, and the previous study done on stress had very similar findings. Unplanned pregnancy and husband's employment status were associated with higher stress levels. Now, how do we find these patients? Now, symptoms of depression may be difficult to differentiate from what happens during a normal postpartum period or even early pregnancy. So some of these tools, like the Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale or the Beck's Depression Inventory and Postpartum Depression Screening Scale, could be used as a screening tool. And based on the score, you could then identify and look in detail among those patients who score high on these scales. The detection rate is in the range of 68 to 100% and is obviously better for severe depression. The specificities ranged from about 78 to 96%, so it's quite specific, but not particularly sensitive. Now, the fourth factor that worries a physician when we are treating a patient who has a mental health illness is the benefit risk ratios with psychotropic medications during pregnancy and lactation. Now, what happens if a patient is not treated? Uh, what studies have found is that they are less likely to receive adequate prenatal care. They tend to have low birth weight babies, and fetal growth retardation can happen in the children born to depressed mothers. Preterm delivery, preeclampsia, operative delivery, and among the infants, ICU admissions for hypoglycemia, respiratory distress. And studies from the West have shown that patients tend to use alcohol, tobacco, and other substances. Now, we don't have this data, especially among the urban population. We do not as yet have these data. So what is the impact of psychiatric illness on the pregnancy outcome? This is from the ACOG guidelines for mental health illnesses in pregnancy. With those with anxiety disorders, they found that there is increased incidence of instrumental delivery, prolonged labor, fetal distress, preterm delivery, and spontaneous abortions. The neonates tend to have decreased developmental score and inadaptability and slowed mental development at age of 2 years. With major depression, there was increased incidence of low birth weight and fetal growth, decreased fetal growth, and postnatal complications. And among the children, among the neonates, they found that there is high cortisol and catecholamine levels. The infant tends to cry and not get comforted, and the rate of admissions into the neonatal ICU seems to be higher as well. Bipolar disorders has very similar effects as major depression, and schizophrenia tends to seem to have this teratogenic effect, probably because of the drugs used, and there is increased incidence of preterm delivery, low birth weight, small for gestational babies, placental abnormalities, and antenatal hemorrhage. There's also increased rates of postnatal death, which is very concerning. So what are the long-term risks for infant? If a psychiatric illness is not treated, then there is impaired ties of affection or bonding with the newborn, and the maternal capacity to care for the baby in the postpartum period, or which leads to increasing risk for infant infection, malnutrition, impaired child growth, which comes out as low birth weight and height for age, and even behavioral disorders, and maybe maybe they're vulnerable to presenting with mental disorders in adulthood as well. Now, what are the risks with medication, especially with fetal exposures to medications? There are always three risks that we worry about. The risk of teratogenesis, or congenital malformations that happen because the effect of the drug crossing the placenta The risk of neonatal toxicity, especially close to term when the baby is delivered, does the drug have an effect on the neonate, and especially as a withdrawal? And what are the risk of long-term neurobehavioral sequelae? The risk of teratogenesis is something that has been looked at, and neonatal toxicity we have some data on, but the risk on long-term neurobehavioral sequelae is still being studied, and we don't have much data across the world. Just to be aware that the FDA labeling of drugs during pregnancy as A, B, C, D, and X is changing to these new labelings of a narrative of what happens when the drug is used in pregnancy, including labor and delivery, what happens during lactation, especially nursing mothers, among the nursing mothers, and what is the effect of the drug on male and females of reproductive potential. So if you look at the FDA labeling, you would tend to see these narratives now, and this is slowly getting used for more and more drugs that are being developed. So what are the principles of therapy? You would find if a patient with depression doesn't take or continue the medicines during pregnancy, the rate of relapse of depression is almost 2/3 if they discontinued medications. Whereas if they continued, 1 in 4 tend to relapse. And so if they are already diagnosed to have a mental health disorders prior to pregnancy, then the best way forward is to have preconception counseling and adjust the medications prior to even conception, and make sure that the medications are safe for pregnancy. A single medication is preferred at a higher dose than multiple medications, and this comes across a whole spectrum of mental health disorders. With if you have multidisciplinary teams, then involving the obstetrician, the pediatrician, and a mental health clinician along with the primary healthcare provider is essential, and it helps with better outcome. What about the drugs? Benzodiazepines, there are increased incidence of cleft lip or palate, so an ultrasound needs to be done for facial morphology. And during the time of delivery, because of the effect of benzodiazepines, you can have a floppy infant syndrome and withdrawal in the neonate, and infant sedation, which can affect lactation. Now, SSRIs, SNRIs, and TCAs, there's not much birth defects. We will come to it in detail. But there is reduced concentration across pregnancy, and you can have neonatal withdrawal syndromes. Lithium, as we know, has increased heart effects, and it is best that lithium is not continued through pregnancy if possible. Antiepileptics could be used as mood stabilizers, especially lamotrigine. Now, medical therapy for depression as such, SSRIs are the mainstay, and they have the best benefit to risk ratio. So fluoxetine, sertraline, and citalopram. Now, paroxetine has been associated with cardiac abnormalities and anomalies. Now, SSRIs, when they are used late in pregnancy, can lead to transient neonatal complications, and so both the neonatal team as well as the obstetrician team should be aware of these problems of jitteriness, mild respiratory distress, transient tachypnea of newborn, weak cry, poor tone, and neonatal intensive care admissions for some of these. Now, what about during lactation? The drug exposure during lactation is considerably lower than transplacental exposure. And we know that depression can have a relapse postnatally. So it is important to continue these medications that's been used during pregnancy through the period of lactation. What about tricyclic antidepressants? They were used prior to the SSRIs. And what they have found is that they may be associated with limb abnormalities, but it's not been confirmed in the subsequent studies. But acute effects with exposure in the infants, especially when they are born, could be related to fetal tachycardia, neonatal symptoms like tachypnea, tachycardia, cyanosis, irritability, hypotonia, clonus, and spasms. These are all case reports with some transient withdrawal syndrome symptoms. There is no data which is clearly showing these effects, but there are case reports of each of these effects. What about atypical antidepressants? Now there is limited data of fetal exposure, and while that data doesn't suggest increased fetal anomalies or adverse pregnancy events, we do not as yet have enough data to use this as a primary modality. Therapy, if there is access, if the patient is willing to access a psychiatrist, then structured psychotherapy with interpersonal psychotherapy or cognitive behavior therapy are effective for mild to moderate depression and should be used as an adjuvant to medical therapy. So just to summarize, stigma related to mental health disorders precludes patients getting appropriate care with the psychiatrist and with the help that is available, which puts the onus on the general physicians to be aware of the magnitude of the problem. 1 in 4 seem to have some amount of depression during the antenatal period, and 1 in 10 seem to have severe to moderate depression. And risk factors for mental health issues seem to be, especially with depression, seems to be related to social issues, and so a social history is essential. And we've looked at the benefit risk equations of psychotropic medications, with SSRIs being mainly used during pregnancy because of their profile. Thank you very much.